Good afternoon there, my fellow horse people. This is Joe with Horses Naturally coming to you out here in Wedgeville, South Carolina. And I'm out here feeding my guys. I gave them both a nice little hose down. That's why they look a little glossy. Both are doing just fine, just the same as before. In fact, when I came out this morning, EzPz didn't have any drainage come out of his nose at all, and I rarely even heard him cough. When I came back out this afternoon, he coughed a couple of times because he was out there gnawing on that hay that's way out there, so it's probably dry. Anyways, they're both doing well, and I just gave them some apple treats, and I'm feeding them a second time. Not as if this one needs it. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that they eat so that they have good energy and maintain a nice little healthy diet. Very little fat in there. In fact, most of it's just natural oats with a little bit of protein powder and a smidget of corn for a little bit of sweetness. But they both seem to love it, and it's not processed or anything like that. It comes right out of Manning, South Carolina. It's about $13 a bag. I like it. I've used it for over 2 years now, and I haven't had any problems with it. Unlike people who use those expensive processed grains. I'm not going to name any particular brands out due to potential lawsuit reasons. So this video is not about me trying to criticize processed grains. If that's what you want to use, then that's fine. Have at it. I like what I use, and it works just great. And you can see that my quarter horse over there, EzPz, is real fat. Bella, of course, is still gaining weight. It's still slow progress, but she's filling in. She's probably about 30% filled in. I'd like to see her fill out just a little bit more. Kind of give you guys a continued update of the potential Streptococcus outbreak that these two picked up. I'm really starting to question that because they never really developed any signs, any serious signs that they had Streptococcus. But I suspect that it's possible Bella may have had a respiratory infection when I picked her up and probably passed it on to him because he had actually started coughing when I was in that smaller paddock about the day before they were moved out here. And the primary reason why we believe it was Streptococcus or Strangles is because the horse that was in this paddock last year had Strangles, which caught it from another horse that was in the paddock next to it, and that horse had Streptococcus. And so, just a natural assumption is that these two probably picked it up whenever they were grazing off the ground. My primary concern is that when the vets came out, they never actually took a nasal swab culture to have it biologically tested to confirm that they had Strangles. And so that's my fault, but as also much as the so-called professionals, that's their fault who came out here because they just made the assumption that these guys had Strangles disease. But be that as it may, the money's already been spent. I know not to spend that again, even though it was the boarding manager who helped me out on that, but I got to pay him back on that. But that's $169 that I kind of wouldn't mind keeping because they didn't really do anything except feel around. They put a thermometer in EzPz's butt and he didn't have a fever, and then boom, they confirmed that it was Strangles just by mere observation. But there are dozens of other sicknesses that can cause a horse to sniffle and cough and have drooling coming out of their nose and stuff like that. So I'm kind of disappointed. No, actually, I'm very disappointed that these guys didn't bother to test for that. Especially, it might have been something that Bella could have been carrying and passed it on to him. But and she never really developed any signs of Strangles. Now the vet did say that she had one lymph node that was swollen, but I wasn't able to confirm that myself, and I wasn't shown what spot they were talking about, so I think he was probably just assuming. At any rate, it is what it is, and we'll just continue on. I'd say about another week I'm going to get the vets back out here to have them do it the correct way and do a nasal swab, and if that comes back negative, then that should be given the all clear sign, and my guys will never have to worry about that disease again, assuming that's what it was. So let me kind of rehash on that particular subject, because this particular disease causes a great deal of drama with other boarders. When one horse contracts the Strangles disease, everybody freaks out and they start panicking as though the bubonic plague was about to strike, and so some people start scrambling. And it's unfortunate that a lot of board managers, they end up losing business because of the chaotic fears that boarders tend to take on whenever one horse gets sick, especially when it comes to strangles. And as I said in my last video, Streptococcus is not something to be fearful of. It has a very, very low mortality rate, and so there's no reason to fear over that. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of the horses that do get sick are usually the ones that are pampered. You know, they're kept in stalls, they're kept in isolated paddocks, they don't have much contact with the rest of the horse world, and then you go out on a one trail ride, which might involve wading through some water, and then boom, they get sick. So sort of compare it like this, folks. Imagine a family that was raised on an island, and or a child that was raised on an island with his family, I should say, and that child never came in contact with any of the diseases. Then all of a sudden he discovers the world, the United States or Russia or China, any other place, and he goes there for a visit. Next thing you know, he's got fever, he's got chicken pox, he's got measles, he's got mumps, and he's sick as a dog, and he's acting like he's going to die, and all that kind of stuff. But once his body grows immune to it, never has to really worry much about it again, assuming he survives. Well, it's the same with horses. You know, whenever you keep your horses isolated from the rest of the world by constantly keeping them at a boarding facility and in the stalls, and the only other form of contact it might have is an occasional passerby on a trail ride, you know, that's when your horses are more likely to contract a disease that they've never been exposed to. So that's the logic behind vaccinations. And so I do believe in annual vaccinations, as long as you don't get carried away with it. And when people start assuming that the reason why a horse gets sick is because they haven't been vaccinated, you got your logic all wrong. Vaccinations don't prevent you from getting sick. It may reduce the sickness from becoming serious, because that body's been exposed to the type of pathogens that caused the sickness in the first place. And so vaccinations are good. So I don't want people to misinterpret me from my last video that vaccinations do have a benefit. The problem that I have with vaccinations is some of the vaccinations, as I said before, are laced with metal toxins or metallic toxins that can be hazardous, especially when accumulated over time. So I, for one, don't believe in an aggressive vaccination approach, because that doesn't mean it's going to stop you from getting sick. EzPz gets his annual vaccinations every single year. Now, he went 3 months overdue before he got his last set last month. You see, he just coughed a little bit right there. And he still ended up contracting the so-called Strangles disease. And he did have the distempered shot not even 60 days ago. So to suggest that vaccinations is going to solve the problem, that's just ridiculous. Now, it might be possible that with the distemperment shot that he got probably helped him do so well with this particular infection that he got, assuming, again, that this was indeed the Streptococcus disease or distemper. But he's been here for a long time. Now, he's never been down here on this paddock, but he's been on this little breezeway right here. And so he's never contracted a disease. And even the horses that did get it, not counting these guys, but the two horses before him that got it, they both survived. So there's your clear evidence that they don't die from this. Now, they can die, but you don't take the word can and multiply that by a factor 1,000 and start issuing a pandemic, a pandemic state. You know, you don't do a paddock-wide pandemic just because one horse gets sick. What they need is exposure, folks. They need to be exposed with other horses and have their immunities adapt, learn how to defeat some of the sicknesses that they might come in contact with, and then you'll be fine. Some of the folks that I spoke with said that over the thousands of horses that they deal with each year, they find that the pampered horses and the vaccinated horses are the ones that struggle the most, because they don't have enough contact. And whereas the rugged horses, the ones that they go out on these big rodeo events or long trail rides with about 1,000 people or 500 people, and they're exposed to other horses and they get sick during their lifetime, over time they become very, very rugged and very tough, and they don't get sick very often. So it's just unfortunate that you got these English barn witches that seem to, and Western, that seem to think that the best way to keep a horse safe is by keeping them inoculated, keep them isolated, and any horse that gets infected needs to be off the premises. That's their mentality, because their horse is more important than everybody else, and they don't want their horses getting sick. And that's the kind of stupidity that leads to possible death in the first place, because of the fact that they don't get their horses exposed to anything. And as far as I'm concerned, people like that, they should just get their own property and keep their horses isolated from the rest of the world and have them live in their own little private bubble. As far as I'm concerned. But anyways, so these guys are doing great. Now, and the last thing is, it's just unfortunate that these same overreactive hypochondriacs, they're the ones who cause trouble for boarders. And so boarders end up resorting to all kinds of things to try to save their business. You know, keeping it secret or asking people not to talk about it, like I'm doing right now, and that kind of stuff. And so, you know, do I blame boarding managers for doing that? Of course not. They got a business they got to maintain, and it would just help if people became more aware and informed, as I am, or am now, I should say, that you know, easy peasy getting sick. So what? I'm not scared. I'm not terrified. I'm here as his helper. If he does develop a bad case where he starts getting these little blisters on his face or cysts and they start popping, I'm here to help him. I'm here to comfort him until he recovers. That's my job. But you know, to you know, do what? Look at this. They put up kind of a probably about close to a 10-foot gap. Well, you can't really see it on the camera. A divider inside my paddock so that my guys can't nose the horses next to them. Now, I understand that. I'm not complaining about it. So they have a slightly smaller paddock. It's only for a couple weeks, and after that it'll come down. So no big deal. But that's the kind of hysteria that's the kind of things that board managers have to do to keep the other boarders happy, because they're so terrified their horses are going to get sick. And I know it sucks. I know, nobody wants to see their horse or even their children get sick. I know it sucks. But it's just unfortunate that boarding managers have to go through this kind of stuff just to keep everybody happy so they can maintain their business. Now, unfortunately, my boarding manager has already lost 2 or 3 people once before over the same person who caused the hysteria in the first place, but I'm not going to mention any names. But she knows where I stand. That person knows that she's to stay away from my horses, and I've already, you know, let everyone know that if this continues, then I'm going to pull chocks and leave myself. Go find some place where I can, you know, board happily and not have to worry about whether or not people are going to be offended or anything like that. You know, it's not my fault that my horses got sick. It's not their fault that they got sick. It just happens, guys. And there's no reason to blame or cast any doubt or fear on anybody. But these historical people that suffer from hypochondria are just, they need to get a life. You know, stop worrying. But anyhow, that's my rant for today. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm trying to enjoy myself here in this little shade. It looks like the sun's trying to get me, but I'm approaching 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time. And I'll continue giving you guys updates on the status of these 2. So until then, this is Joe signing off with Horse It Naturally. Have a great day, folks, and God bless you all. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.